What's up everyone, John from ARTV. It's time for another Patreon supported Top 10 Countdown. Today I am going to be talking about my top 10 favorite Shinedown songs. Thanks to my Patreon supporter, David. Thank you for making this video possible. And if you would like to get in on this, get a video made, something that you're interested in seeing me do, whether it be a top 10, an episode of 7 on Sunday over on Beyond ARTV, a throwback album, really anything that you were looking to get covered, hit me up on Patreon. It is the top link in the description down below. These videos do take a lot of work and planning, and especially during the adpocalypse, I am super grateful for anyone who can help out by pledging monthly over on Patreon. Top link in the description. So today, as I talk about my top 10 favorite Shinedown songs, they are a rock band for anyone not familiar. They've been around since the early 2000s. Keep in mind that this is just my list, my personal opinion. There is no such thing as an exact top 10 because music is subjective. So let me know maybe your top 5 or your top 10 in the comments section down below. I've got some honorable mentions that I've stuffed into the description because I could not fit everything. They've got several albums under their belt all the way from 2003, their debut, up to Threat to Survival that came out just a couple of falls ago. So be sure to let me know your favorites, leave a like on the video, and of course let me know what you think of the list today. Number 10 is Fly from the Inside from their debut album, Leave a Whisper. This is an album that did strike a chord for me early on, but I didn't find myself coming back to it as much as some of the other albums, like my friend burned me some CDs. This and Us and Them were among those, and Us and Them is definitely the one that I gravitated towards more of the two. So this is the only song that you were gonna see other than a cover song, the only original song, I should say, from this debut album. So what do I like about Fly from the Inside? Well, for one, it kind of has a bombastic feeling, really just sweeping over it. I like the quiet, loud dynamics. It starts off slow, breaks into it, and then just has that hammering voice from Brent Smith, the lead vocalist of Shinedown. I really like how he comes through on this track and just lets it soar. It showcases what Shinedown were going to become and the talent that they had early on. A record label obviously scooped them up and they saw success for years to come. In fact, they're still seeing a lot of success, and I'm glad because they are one of the better mainstream rock bands out there. Like I said previously, I'm not super into all of their albums, but tracks like this remind me of why I love the band. My number 9 pick comes from the album Amaryllis, and it's a beautiful one. It's one that once again showcases the talent of Brent Smith and the band, showcasing a variety. Obviously there's guitars on this track, but there's some outside instrumentation as well. And it kind of sweeps you off your feet and it takes you by surprise because it's a gentle song, but it reminds you of love and compassion. And I could easily see this being played at like a wedding or something like that, or just somebody dedicating themselves to their partner. I'll follow you down. And the way he sings that, his voice just roars on the hook. It's a buildup of emotion and then a let out of love. And I like the way that he just kind of lets that fade and sprinkle all over the track. And you can actually feel the genuine heart and emotion that went into the writing of this tune. It's catchy, it's spirited, and it's just lovely in general. Ooh, somebody has their sights locked in on somebody and is ready to tell them off. Your Majesty is our number 8 pick today, and I love this one. This is one of my early loves from Us and Them, and it still stands tall for me. I love those riffs. They really just kind of tear into you and remind you of the harder rock tendencies that Shinedown do have and their roots. And they definitely ground themselves here and make kind of a rip-roaring tune that just has all of the vintage Shinedown flair to it. I love the chorus on this thing. It's not one of those things where, oh, like the chorus just stands out so much taller than the verses. I find the verses to be super impactful as well, especially the way they kind of stutter in those guitar riffs and the percussion just kind of rattles. That drum kit is shaking the entire time, and you can feel the bass as well. And that's not something that you can say for every mainstream rock band. I feel like the bass and the drumming is often very, very stale, but fortunately they do not fall into that problem as a band. And Your Majesty is one of those ones that roars with a life and a tenacity and a passion, and I wish this had been one of the singles from Us and Them. I did mention that Cut the Cord was kind of a different album for Shinedown, and Cut the Cord kind of took me by surprise. It took me a few listens to actually start getting into this one, but it quickly became, as you can see, one of my favorite Shinedown songs, clocking in at number 7 on the list. Cut the Cord was the lead single from the Threat to Survival album, and it's one that kind of starts off with like kind of a children's choir chanting like freedom, dun dun dun, some stuttered in guitar riffs that are going in the background before it really just rips in. Obviously, Brent takes over, the guitars start to rollick and the drums, and you can see him unleash vocally here. And obviously it kind of reminds you of some of Shinedown's earlier works, especially maybe the album The Sound of Madness, where we saw a lot of anger in the music and that sort of thing. Cut the Cord is big. It's a big radio rock, stadium ready song, and I see exactly why they picked this as the lead-off single. Now, it does represent what is on the record, but at the same time, it is true to itself in being a unique song. Maybe not the most original song out there, but still a very, very good one for me, and something that I still come back to.
So beast your eyes on the big blue sky and wave bye-bye from the long black Cadillac. Pay the price, gotta roll those dice and wave bye-bye from the long black Cadillac. From the long black Cadillac.
Once again from the album Threat to Survival, we have Black Cadillac, a unique song in Shinedown's discography, and one that I was drawn to instantly. Like, my ear just went to that and I was like, wow, that's awesome. I think it was a promotional single from the record, and I do wish that it had a music video. I don't think that it does, but Brent definitely sounds like he has some pent-up feeling. I've got a mind full of inspiration, he sings on this one before blasting into that chorus. It definitely has a little bit of play between like a piano, a guitar on this one, and it is different for them. I wish that they branched out more in this vein because it still definitely fits in the rock category, but it plays with other sounds like the piano so well, and it meshes perfectly with Brent's voice. He's a talented dude. The rest of the band are as well. I can't knock their contributions because they really wouldn't be anything without them. Obviously, it's Shinedown as a band, but here they play tightly, but they play differently, and I love the fact that this song stands out. Black Cadillac kind of has a nostalgic flair to it, at least in my opinion. It reminds me of maybe like something you would hear in like a 70s or 80s film, maybe in the ending credits or an emotional climax scene or something like that. The way that the pianos are sprinkled in and mixed with the guitars, and then it's like maybe you picture like a car, like a black Cadillac just driving off in the distance as the movie ends or as the scene comes to its big finale or something like that. Maybe it's just me, I don't know.
What a shame to judge a life that you can't change. The choir sings, the church bells ring, so won't you give this man his wings?
My number 5 pick and my first from the 2008 release, The Sound of Madness, is What a Shame, about a vagabond, a traveling man who fell on hard times, relapsing maybe into drugs or seemingly alcohol, it seems, on this track. Maybe it's a fictional story, maybe it's one of the band members that encountered something like this and they wrote from that experience. It'll probably remind some of the Nickelback track Just to Get High, but I honestly feel like they have different aspects to them as well. I like the storytelling on both of those tracks. That's one of the better Nickelback songs, and this is one of of the better Shinedown songs for me. It kind of does have that dark tone, but I love the key change as this song progresses, and it seems like he's learned something from this person, and you can see that as the track hits its big finale as the song goes on. It's kind of grandiose in that regard, but I like how the chorus on this thing is not restrained, but it's kind of like maybe somebody talking to another person. You're talking with friends, you see somebody else's life go down the tubes, and you're like, oh, you know, what a shame that that happened. I hate that happened. And that's what the chorus feels like to me. And whenever you can relay that just genuine human connection to the listener, I think you've done something right.
Well, Mama told me when I was young, said sit beside me, my only son, and listen closely.
My number 4 choice is a cover song. It's called Simple Man, originally by Leonard Skinner, and this is actually the track that kind of introduced me to who they were officially, Shinedown covering them. I had obviously heard some songs growing up, but around the time I first heard the cover, I was probably 13 or 14 years old, and I loved Brent's voice on this, and I still love their take on this song. Obviously, the original is fantastic, but here he just highlights the power behind the lyrical content here, and you can actually feel what he's feeling. It's like he's been passed on this advice by his mother, and you can actually feel that as the listener. Once again, just like I was saying about our last choice here on the list. This is one that stands tall in their discography. It's led by an acoustic guitar and Brent's voice primarily, and this was a big hit for them, surprisingly. It's not something that you would necessarily think would cross over to rock radio, but it was primed to come out at the right time, and they really struck a chord with listeners and won over a big fan base as a result of that.
Paint me on canvas so I become what you could never be. I dare you to tell me to walk through the fire, wear my soul and call me a liar.
My final 3 picks were definitely a toss-up. I love my number 3 pick so much, and sometimes I would say this kind of comes in at number 2 or maybe even number 1, but right now, for me, in my life, at least the past couple of years, I would say this is the perfect location for it. I love it to death, and it's called I Dare You from Us and Them. This is an inspirational and kind of motivating song, honestly. It's like picking yourself up from the depths, but it does it without being super cheesy and lame, and I hate that about so many of these rock songs that just kind of do that. I mean, maybe look at like Seether's Rise Above This, and that song, especially with repeated listens over the years, has not aged that well, to be honest. And songs like this totally have. I dare you to tell me to walk through fire, Brent cries out on this one, over some really sharp guitar chords. I love the guitars on this track, and especially the little solo on the bridge of this thing. It's really, really cool, and I think that it should have been a bigger hit for the band. It was released as one of the singles from Us and Them, and it stood out to some fans, but it really didn't pick up that much traction, and I hated that back in the day. I used to so closely follow the alternative songs chart. I knew that it charted, and I wanted it to work its way up higher, but unfortunately it never did. And even though it did kind of go underrated as a single, I definitely think it lives on in the hearts of fans. I can see why I and others love it so much. The vocal melody is catchy as hell, it's empowering, and it's just a big statement for them.
Just like a crow chasing the butterfly, dandelions lost in the summer sky. When you and I were getting high as outer space, I never thought you'd slip away.
Talk about a chorus that's gonna get ingrained in your head forever. I can hear this floating around quite often. Maybe it's in the back of my head, maybe it's at the front of my head some days, but from time to time, this is one of those songs that will just pop up and demand to be listened to. My number 2 pick is The Crow and the Butterfly from, once again, the 2008 release, The Sound of Madness. This song starts off on acoustic guitar, and I like that it's able to make that transition, adding in some orchestral elements to it kind of giving you that big theatric over-the-top feel, but it also kind of does seem necessary here for this type of songwriting, the poetic feel to the lyrical content. It comes alive from the page, and the music video I think kind of helps convey that as well. I love what the band did with this track. It's dark, but at the same time, it's kind of like a trip down memory lane. It opens your mind. When you and I were getting high as outer space, I never thought that you would slip away. Losing somebody, whether it be a friend or a relationship, maybe you took it for granted. And now it's just like you're looking back on that and you're like, can I ever have this again? But you always have this memory that you'll hold near and dear. I think this is a very, very nostalgic tune for me and a lot of other people. It's definitely a good one, a keeper.
Touch of concrete within the doorway, without a sound. Someone save me if you will, and take away all these pills, and please just save me.
I always really enjoyed the charismatic and odd lyrics on Save Me, my #1 pick, the best Shinedown song in my opinion, my absolute favorite from them, and it was one of my first. I think it might have been my first. I think I heard this and Simple Man back to back. I almost said Simple Plan. That wouldn't be good. This seems to be about an individual that is trapped somewhere. I've got a candle and I got a spoon. I live in a hallway with no doors and no rooms. That's the opening lines to this song. So obviously it seems very dark, very bleak, no hope. Somebody save me, he cries out on the chorus for this thing. The guitars just kind of shriek in the background, especially at the bridge of this track where he's yelling, jump in the water, jump. Oh my God, why am I doing vocal impressions? That never works out well. One of Shinedown's biggest hits, obviously, but like I said, with this band, I do gravitate towards their singles more than their albums. I'm kind of a singles guy whenever it comes to some of these bands that I do top 10s for, and Shinedown are one of those, but I love this tune so much, love the hell out of it. It's one of those songs that I look back to my nostalgia, like teenage years playlist, and this is one of the ones that I always want to listen to. It's got big drums, bombastic, over-the-top guitars, and the vocals are so ace, just the ace up their sleeve, and I feel like this one is always going to stand tall for me, if not just for nostalgia's sake. Thank you so much for watching my top 10 Shinedown songs today, and thank you again to my Patreon supporter David for making this video possible. If you would like to get in on the fun, maybe request a video of your own, find out how you can do so by supporting on Patreon. The top link in the description down below, or in just a second you can click that annotation in the corner of your screen. Feel free to request other top 10s you'd like to see me do. I can't guarantee when I'll get to them, but I will try to listen to the viewers and obviously my Patreon supporters as well. My Patreon's linked right here. You can see more top 10s by clicking right here, or a recent video I did on the channel by clicking right underneath me. All of my social media is linked in the description. Other than that, I'll see you very soon right here on ARTV.